Iran appears, to the degree we can determine it, and we're pretty confident, they appear to be living up to their part of the agreement.
They are not living up to the spirit of the agreement, I can tell you that.
It's a yes or no question, Andrea, and the answer is yes, Iran is complying with the nuclear deal. So I have no idea what President Trump is talking about.
Research Academy in Parchin. It needs to be inspected immediately, because otherwise, knowing the history of the Iranian regime, they will get engaged in the cleanup project and move things around and stall, and we know the whole history.
Well, a couple of days after the Secretary of State certified what's called the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the JCPOA, this is the U.S.-Iran nuclear deal, an Iran dissident group came out with satellite imagery today, said to be from informants inside Iran, that Iran is working in a military facility experimenting with things like triggering devices, high explosives, a newly constructed site. This obviously would be alarming to the U.S. The Iran foreign minister tweeted out, worn out U.S. accusations can't mask its admission of Iran's compliance with JCPOA, obligating U.S. to change course and fulfill its own commitments. And he had highlighted all the sections of the different parts of the deal. And today, Zarif, the foreign minister, tweets, we'll see if U.S. prepared to live up with the letter of JCPOA, let alone spirit. So far, it has defied both. Should I use my highlighter again? Those are the developments with this Iran deal. Let's bring in our panel. Byron York, chief political correspondent of the Washington Examiner. Tim Farley, host and managing editor of Morning Briefing, POTUS on Sirius XM Radio, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Byron, this seems like a big development.
I think it is, and I think we're headed for months and months of debate and poring over satellite photos and all of that stuff. I don't think what the administration has said is quite as contradictory as some people have suggested. I think you could see the certification as kind of a placeholder, something required to be done now. At the same time, this expression of doubt of whether they're, before we saw this thing today, expression of doubt of whether Iran is A, really complying, and B, even if they are, whether the deal is in the long term a bad deal.
Yeah, and you know, the administration was quick to point out that it's one, under review, and two, that they're going to add in the other elements that the Obama administration never did, which is funding terrorist groups and the other things that Iran does throughout the region.
Sounds to me like a work in progress. And you know what I thought was interesting this week was Secretary of State Tillerson side by side with the Saudi Arabian group in front of a CEO summit, and the United States reaching out once again to Saudi Arabia to sort of reassure them that we're also on your side. There's this power grab in the Middle East. We've got the Iranians and the Saudis at odds with one another, and I thought it was significant that that happened. That said, President Trump all along has said it's a bad deal. The specifics of it, I'm not so sure he has a good handle on, but I don't think that there's any issue with the fact that he doesn't want the Iranians to get any more power. The question is what he's going to do from now on. I don't know how he can really undo what has been done thus far.
Charles.
There's no contradiction whatsoever in our position. You need three things to develop a usable nuclear weapon. Number one, you need the fissile material. Number two, you have to weaponize it. You have to make it explode. And that's what was revealed today. They've been working on this assiduously. Third, you need the ballistic missiles that will deliver them. The problem is that the Obama administration looked only at the fissile element. So technically speaking, you can say that, yes, it's a frozen program. They are not increasing the amount of enriched uranium. But what the Iranians are doing, and this is so obvious a child can see it, is while the program on the fissile material is frozen, they're working rapidly on the weaponization, which is the other part you need, and of course on the ballistic missiles, which we can see. The weaponization is in a military facility called Parchin. It was supposed to have been investigated under the Obama administration and before the signing of the agreement to make sure it hadn't been used in the past for weaponization. Of course, Obama and Kerry caved on that, never did. We are not allowed to inspect. We allowed the Iranians to inspect themselves on Parchin, which was a joke. So yes, they are developing a nuclear weapon. It's a violation of the spirit of the agreement, because the way they look at it, in half a decade, they'll be able to resume the fissile material, the enriching uranium, They will have weaponized, and they will have the missiles.
You would maybe think when you're doing the deal that a weapons program would be in a military facility, but that was one of the problems.
And
with
we
the
can't
early
get
deal.
to it. We cannot inspect it.
That's right.